Hi everyone, it's Claire here, and today we're going to talk about heavy periods. But I thought we would start off with filming Ellen for a second because she just looks so cute and she's right next to where I'm filming, so I just couldn't resist. So there's Ellen. Okay, so now we've done the cuteness of Ellen, let's get on with the order of business for this video, and that is cloth pads and super heavy periods. Now, I've been meaning to do this video for a long time. It was actually one of the first ones that I had planned to do. But one thing happened and then another, and I was doing a couple of reviews, and then I was really enjoying doing the tutorials. So this got put on hold. So today I thought would be the ideal opportunity to do it, as I am off my feet with endo breakthrough bleeding in the middle of my cycle. So what a better time to talk about heavy bleeding due to medical problems. Maybe you have endometriosis, PCOS. A lot of people get very confused and think people with PCOS only have very light periods, when in fact some suffer terribly heavy periods. Maybe you have thyroid issues, hormone imbalances, or it is hereditary. So what do I mean by heavy, first of all? If you are changing your pad every 4 to 5 hours on your heaviest day, then you have an average woman's heavy day within her cycle. This video is really aimed at women that have conditions, meaning they have the mega flow. So on their worst periods, they may be changing their pads that are postpartum absorbency every 20 minutes to half an hour. On their best cycle, they may be lasting them an hour to an hour and a half. So that's the kind of flow we're talking about here, the mega flow. So in this video, I thought we would have a look at some of the things that I found while going through my cloth pad journey, and some tips and little tricks that I've come across that may help you with cloth pads, as maybe you are currently using them and you're finding your cloth pads are not holding up well enough, or you're thinking of changing to cloth pads but you're on the iffy side because you know you have a mega flow period and you just think they're not going to be reliable enough. So that's where we are, and we're going to basically start with fabrics. Now, when I first came to cloth pads, it was not a smooth journey. The first time I tried cloth pads, I spoke to a maker. I asked for the heaviest that she did. She sent me a set of pads that I purchased. It came to my period. I leaked through them, off them, pretty much any way I could have leaked, I did it. It was an epic leakage, and I freaked out, was pretty grossed out, and I dumped them in the bin, and that was cloth pads and me done, which is ironic when you look at me now. Then 6 months later, I was really at my wit's end on one of my periods. I was so sore from the layering of the disposable pads. I had so many disposable pads on, all in a couple of pair of knickers. It was just absurd. And I said to my husband, I think I'm going to have to look into cloth again. So I started researching so that, you know, I could see what was out there basically, because I figured I obviously didn't look well enough before. So this time I contacted several makers and told them my situation, tried to explain in graphic detail the situation, and still the pads I purchased were no good, and I lost a lot of money destashing them. I really wanted to give up on cloth, and my husband was like, no, we're going to keep going until we get this right. I spoke to the makers again, they altered it, but because other women that don't have mega flow don't have anything to go by, they may think they have a heavy flow, but it's a standard heavy flow, or they could have a light period. So they have no personal experience. So what you're describing to them, they can't comprehend. To them, it's absurd that someone could lose that amount of blood during their period. So their answer to this is to add absorbency and add absorbency until you have a pad that is a nappy, that's so thick you can't close your legs, so uncomfortable you might as well have been in disposables. And it was just, for me, I didn't know what to do. That's when I discovered sewing your own pads and went into a massive research phase on fabrics and what to use and what not to use, etc. Because I didn't want to feel different from the crowd, if you like. I had enough problems with my endo. I have enough problems with my endo that stand me apart from other women during my period. I didn't want to have to be the one wearing these big nappy pads that couldn't have the pretty prints, that had to have the like really thick ones and suck it up. So I went into research mode. So fabric wise, here is what I found out and what worked for me. But one thing I absolutely will say is experiment yourself, because it will be different for everyone. But I'm going to give you some pros and cons that hopefully will apply generally to people. So when it comes to toppers for your cloth pads, when you have the mega flow, which in case you haven't noticed, that's what it's described as in my house. So I'm just going to say that throughout this video, it just basically refers to my endo flow. So when you have a flow like that, it may be running out of you like a tap. It may do sudden gushes. You know, it's a lot for a pad to deal with. So your topper is your very important, like, first part of your army, if you like, within your pad. You need a topper that's going to grab that blood and take it into the core. You don't want something where it's sitting on top, swimming around, waiting for a load of pressure to get it to go down in the core, because that's going to end in disaster. So my absolute favorite topper is cotton velour. Bamboo velour works exactly the same. This is a really old pad. This has had so much use. This is one of the first bamboo, in fact, no, this is the first bamboo velour pad I ever sewed, and I'm still using it now. Cotton velour, I mean. And bamboo and cotton velour are pretty similar, just like one's mostly cotton, one is bamboo and cotton. And it has a very low pile, like so. So it's not like minky, it's not a high pile, it's a low pile. It is extremely soft. So if you are having prolonged heavy periods and have to wear your pads longer than most, then it's a great fabric for that. But the main reason I love it is because it grabs your flow as it leaves your lady parts. This fabric is going to grab it and suck it into your core. So with this, it doesn't have time to go swimming off the wings or the front or the back. It's a really good fabric to start with. Maybe buy just one or two in bamboo or cotton velour, or if you're sewing your own, buy a small amount of fat quarter or something and give that a go. Now, I love cotton pads. These two are cotton. I love cotton, but all cotton is not made equal. And the reason I feel it's important to mention that is because some women with heavy flow find they buy a cotton pad and it just doesn't absorb the flow quick enough. Now, for some women, they may find it never works for them. But what I've personally found is if I have a very high quality cotton, so you're looking at about $14.99 a metre here, then it is a dense, soft cotton. It's not a thin $3.99 a metre cotton. It's a much denser weave and higher quality cotton. Then after a few washes in your prep wash, always prep wash cotton pads more than you would any others. It will absorb very fast. So when it comes to cotton top pads, I generally choose to sew my own because I choose the quality of my cotton. But there are some very good makers out there that do good quality cottons if you prefer a natural fibre that has no pile and that is cool if you live in a particularly hot country and you're worried about velours. Another great option is jersey, cotton jersey. Now it's a stretch fabric, so it is a pain to sew with if you plan to sew your own, but lots of makers stock jersey. And again, it is very quick to absorb. Not as quick as the bamboo and cotton velour, but it is very quick, and it is a cool fabric. So it's very nice for in summer to have a cotton jersey as your topper because it absorbs quickly and it is cooling. The one downside to jersey is blood does tend to spread a bit more on the surface of it, and some ladies do find it feels damp if they're planning to wear their pad for a longer period of time. So it really is how your feeling is down there because everyone's lady parts interpret things differently. The next one, which I don't have here as an example as I personally don't like it as a topper, but it is amazing for heavy gushy flow, is flannel. Flannel toppers are amazing. They, like the bamboo and cotton velour, grab the flow and take it right into the core. They have the advantage of being quite a cool fabric. They're 100% cotton, they're thin, they don't have a pile as such. But the reason I don't have flannel topped pads is because they pill. Every single flannel you can buy on the market will pill. It just depends if it will pill after one wash or if it will pill after 10 washes, but it will pill. And I don't like the look of it, and I find it uncomfortable with those little bobbly bits on. Now the last two toppers I'm going to talk about, which again I don't have examples of as I don't use them because they're polyester, is athletic wicking jersey, which is very good. It grabs flow and pulls it straight down into the pad. It also does not stain, so if you want anti-staining, then athletic wicking jersey is a good option. The one thing it does not have is any absorbency at all to it. So I like my topper to add just a little bit of extra absorbency, which athletic wicking jersey won't, but it will pull your flow into the centre really quickly and is anti-stain. And the next is minky. Now I've spoken to a few friends who have Mega Flow that have tried minky, and although it does absorb quickly, they have found it very wet, so they don't use it because it's wet feeling. But again, this is a personal choice thing, so if you want to give it a go, then grab a fat quarter and give it a try. Now next is our cores. Now core fabrics are very important when you're talking about Mega Flow because you don't want to have a massively thick pad so you feel like you're wearing a nappy. So there are a few fabrics that, although make awesome core fabrics, in my opinion are not the best thing to go for with the Mega Flow because it just makes the pad too thick. Now the first of those is flannel. Now I love flannel. As I said, as a topper, it is super absorbent. It is super absorbent as a core. But if you're going to use it for postpartum or above type absorbency pads, you're going to need 8+ layers of flannel. Now, one, this is hard for some sewing machines to even get through if you're stitching yourself. And two, it makes a very firm pad because once it's compacted and sewn together in a core, it's quite stiff, and it does tend to get stiffer the more you wash it in those really high absorbency levels. Now it is great for your liners, for your lights, for your regulars, but it's something to bear in mind if you're thinking of using it or purchasing a pad that is fully flannel, that it will be quite thick. The next on our thick list is terry toweling of any kind, cotton terry, bamboo terry. Toweling full stop is generally quite thick. And again, to get it to that mega flow level that we want, you're going to need to use multiple layers. Now, it is extremely hard to get that amount of terry through your machine to start with, so you won't find many sellers that actually use it for their postpartum cause. It's mostly homemakers that are trying to upcycle, etc., that give it a go. But it will make a very thick, very stiff pad that again tends to become stiffer the more you wash. So something to bear in mind with those two. Then we come to the Zorbs. Now we've got Zorb I, or original Zorb, whatever you want to call it, and that's the Zorb that does not need pre-washing. That is a really good core fabric for your pads. It's highly absorbent, but it is prone to compression leaks. So when you've got mega flow and you're having those gushes, you need to make sure that in your pads that you have a layer of something underneath that Zorb in your pad. So if you're sitting down and it compresses out of the Zorb, there's something to catch that. But other than that, it is a really good option for your super heavy pads. Then we come to Zorb II, Dimples and Diamonds, which is thinner than Zorb I. It ironically doesn't seem to absorb more. It absorbs faster, but I've done some absorbency tests on this. I actually plan on filming some, but I have recently done absorbency tests on 1, 2 and 3D, and Zorb II does not seem to hold that much more, but it is a lot thinner, and layering it makes an extremely thin and extremely floppy core. So if you like super comfy cores that mold to you and are floppy and still very thin, then that might be a really good option for you Zorb wise, as Zorb I tends to make a slightly stiffer pad. Zorb IIID absorbs a bit more than the two before, and again is very thin. But for me, I'm not sure if it justifies the extra price at the moment, because it doesn't hold a huge amount more. But if you can get your hands on some, it is a great fabric. It absorbs really, really quickly. And if a seller's using it, then absolutely go ahead and get that. If you're sewing with it yourself, Zorb II and IIID need to be fake serged or serged if you have a serger. Otherwise they fray terribly. So just something to bear in mind there. Quick sewing tip. The next core fabric that I'm going to talk about is actually my personal favourite and what I use most, and that is super heavy organic bamboo fleece. I love this stuff. In the UK, it's pretty hard to get your hands on. Where I used to buy it, stopped doing it, and I was very lucky to be able to get some off Nina recently, over at Ngozi Textiles. But it is brilliant. It is thin. It's 500 GSM, which makes it a dense fabric that absorbs and holds a lot of water, and obviously menstrual fluid. It fared extremely well in absorbency tests. Easier to get is heavy organic bamboo fleece, which again is an awesome core fabric for mega flow pads. So I highly, highly recommend the bamboo fleeces. Even if all you can get is the standard bamboo fleece, I still highly recommend it. And the normal standard bamboo fleece is awesome as your underlayer under Zorb I. So there's something to bear in mind there. So that's core fabrics. Next is your backers. Now, I have tried all backers. Eventually I found out I was allergic to the polyester, but I have tried all the different polyester fleeces before I found that out. And if you are having trouble with your pads leaking, or you are first coming to cloth pads and you are very concerned about leaking and you have mega flow, I really recommend staying away from anti-pill fleece, the basic fleeces that you find on some cloth pads, because they are water resistant, but they most certainly are not mega flow resistant. And I leaked through countless pads that were backed in that when I first started with cloth. So I would avoid those to start with until you're comfortable in your pads, and then maybe give them a try with your flow. Next is Winpro fleece. Now this is far more water resistant. It is not waterproof, but it's far more water resistant. I have only leaked through Winpro about 2 times, so you can leak through it, but it is far less likely to happen. So if you find a seller that has Winpro backed pads, then that's a pretty good safe bet for you, especially if you get the correct absorbency within your core. The next option, and my personal favourite, so I'm slightly biased towards it as all my pads have it, is hidden PUL, which is polyurethane laminate. Now, I have never bled through a pad with hidden PUL, and I've been using pads with PUL in for 1.5 years now. I started with sewing my own and then gradually found sellers that offered it as well. And I find it brilliant. It is so thin, and because of that, you can add a very thin backer to your pad. So you can use cotton, you can use flannel, you can use corduroy. So again, because we're having the mega flow cores in there, if we can cut back on that backer and make it a bit thinner, then again, we're bringing the thickness level down on our pads. So I highly recommend PUL. I do not find it sweaty, and I overheat very easily. I mean, I'm someone that in the winter has the air conditioning on in the car because I am really hot. I think it's because of my pain levels. So if it was going to make someone sweat, it would definitely make me sweat. And I've never had any problem with it. But again, small quantities. If you're going to buy pads with PUL, buy 1 or 2, make them, get a fat quarter. And test these things out for yourself, because by trial and error you can find your Goldilocks pad. Now the next thing that is really important when we are talking mega flow pads is to get your width once snapped correct. Now it's important in anyone, but if you are prone to gushing, you can't afford to have that width wrong. So grab a pair of your period underwear, which should be snug fitting underwear, ladies. Do not go for granny pants, because you want that pad held right against you with enough pressure that it comes out and gets absorbed. So take the gusset crotch area of your pants and measure across the center of that. That is the best width for you to try to start with, and then you can go from there. So on mine, that's a 2.75, which is my preference with pads. Sometimes if I am really heavy and I'm going to be sitting all day, I go up to a 3-inch, because I know while sitting it will be fine and won't bunch, and it just gives me that extra protection. So measure your underwear. Next is what to do when you get one of those periods when it comes out of nowhere and mega flow is not enough to describe it, because they just happen. If you have endo, you know what I'm talking about, ladies. They just come at you. Oh my God. So the first thing is interlabial pads. Now they are usually petal shaped, round, or I saw a square one the other day, which I thought was quite interesting. You can buy them from makers for about 50p to £1 each. They are very cheap and easy to make yourself. Check out my tutorial videos, and I have done one on interlabial pads, including information on folding and using them. But generally you will do like this is the simplest fold that's mostly used. fold it like that and put it between the labia. Then when you gush or your flow comes down with force, it hits this and is slowed down, goes through this and is taken into the center of your pad where it's given time to absorb and not flow anywhere you don't want it to. Generally, they are a soft fabric on the top. It could be cotton. This is bamboo velour, flannel, something like that. And on the back, you will have a layer of, this one hasn't been washed yet, so sorry about the fabric pen. A layer of Zorb II, this is. But you can also use flannel, bamboo fleece, anything absorbent. I wouldn't use Zorb I as it has no covering on, and you don't want Zorb I bare in contact with any of your skin. So I really don't recommend that unless you're going to put a layer of cotton on the back of it. But you don't need a backer on these, and you certainly don't want to put a water resistant fabric on the back, because the whole point of these is to let the flow go through them. So that's interlabial pads. You can also, if you're very sensitive and don't want to place them between the labia, you can actually lay them onto your pad like so to give an extra bit of absorbency, and again grab the flow, slow it down and take it into the pad. It's also great if you are using a cotton that maybe you purchased from a store that isn't absorbent as you had hoped, or you've bought some cotton pads and they just don't suit your flow. If you get some interlabial pads with bamboo or cotton velour on top, it's a great cheap way to add that extra kind of take in the absorbency of the bamboo or cotton velour. If you don't have any of these, you don't have time to make any of these, you are caught unaware. It's all gone wrong. You've been caught unaware. It's going everywhere. It's bad times. Flannel. Just a piece of random flannel. Cut up anything really that's flannel in your house. An old sheet. Keep some spare flannel from a fabric store as a backup. A pillowcase, some old pajamas, cut a strip of it. You can fold it up several times and use it as an interlabial pad, a quick makeshift one, or you can fold it a couple of times and again place it on the center of your pad to help slow the flow down and grab it. Flannel is awesome for that. Now, if you've bought some cloth pads or you've made some, and they're not quite right for you, and you don't want to destash them, or you've stained them and you don't want to destash them, but you still want to use them, or you get caught out unawares while you're out, you thought your flow had slowed down, but then the mega flow comes back, then I highly recommend keeping handy a flannel cloth wipe. These things are amazing in an emergency. This should be in your mega flow kit. You can't be without it, truly. It's 2 pieces of flannel sewn together all the way around, leaving a turn tab turned, poke in the turn tab and stitched. You can buy these from cloth pad makers, from reusable baby stores online, lots of eco places. You can just buy these anyway. Now you can keep one of these in the Megaflow bag in your handbag. And if you get caught out with a pad that wasn't suitable, all you need to do is tri-fold this wipe and pop it on top of your not so suitable pad. And you have then bought yourself lots of extra time with this pad, and this absorbs amazingly and does not leak. I have had to do this a few times when I've been caught unawares, and it works amazing. It is my top mega flow tip. Wow, that's a thing, Ellen. A top mega flow tip. She's not even listening to me. She's fast asleep. So that's that. Now, the other thing that there is out there is gusseted shells and pads with inserts and liners, basically. Now, insert and liner pads, I did have one which I de-stash. Did not work for the Mega Flow. The amount of inserts I had to put in made it insanely thick, because the inserts on these are generally flannel, so it made it super, super thick. And then they either have a piece of elastic here and a piece of elastic there, or they have a tab that you tuck in the insert. Now, because of my flow, I would bleed onto the elastic, or what would be the tab if it was a tab one. So it kind of defeats the object of taking out the inserts and keeping the base to carry on with. So I would have to change the whole thing. So I got rid of those. Now, gusseted shells are basically PUL shells that have a crinkly gusset along the side. And inside you put large liners, kind of like one of these pads without wings on the inside. And the shell has wings that attaches to your underwear. Now, this really is a personal thing. For me, I don't like them. I've tried one. I found the PUL really uncomfortable. And I felt like I was wearing a nappy. And that is an issue of mine. That is not an issue worldwide. That is a Claire issue. I don't want to feel like I'm wearing a nappy. I like to wear pretty pads. And I kind of want to feel a bit normal at least. So for me, I don't like them. They didn't work for me. The blood got on the PUL inside of it and it was messy. I just didn't like it. But I know for some women who, you know, need something and they can't change their pad all the time, or they can't find the right pad for them, this could be the answer. So don't be put off trying one of those. If that is an option that you're interested in, it's worth a go. You don't know till you try it. A word quickly, because this video is getting very long, on buying pads from makers. Like I mentioned when we were doing the research section of this on fabrics, kind of know what you're looking for and don't rely on makers. Makers are brilliant. They're always open to questions, and I'm always saying ask makers questions if you have them. But unless someone has mega flow like you, it's really hard for a maker to comprehend what you're talking about. So things are likely to get lost in translation. Whereas if you know you want a hidden PUL pad and you want a bamboo core, or you want a Zorb core with bamboo velour top, then you're in a position where you have the knowledge and you can search out makers that have what you want. Then if you need to, you can message them and say, look, I have insanely heavy periods, and say their listing says bamboo velour top, 2 layers of heavy bamboo fleece, PUL and backer. You can email them and say, can I have an extra layer of bamboo fleece in there and order a custom? So you know yourself kind of what you're looking for, and you're not too reliant on people that may not quite be able to relate with you, or are only going from experience with other customers and might not know exactly what you are going through and what your period is like, basically. So that's that. A quick word on cups as well, as I'm sure if I don't mention it, I will get some comments down below about cups. I have not spoken about cups during this video because I feel I'm not qualified and can't speak from experience to recommend them and tell you which ones are good, which are great for mega flow, because I don't know. I don't use cups because of the placement of some of my endometriosis. Some of it runs between the muscles that line my vaginal canal. So I can't wear a cup inserted into my vagina. My specialist also does not recommend cups for ladies with endo, but I know this varies between specialists, and you may not have endo and be watching this and have a different condition that gives you heavy periods. So what I will say is cups are a great option. I've spoken to many people who find cups a great help, and they wear them with just a backup regular pad alongside it, just in case they have an overflow. And different cups hold different amounts of blood. So you can go for one that holds a heavier flow, for example. But like I say, I don't know enough about cups to recommend what could be helpful to you. So if you are interested in using menstrual cups, then I highly recommend searching on YouTube for Amy Nix. She has done some great informational videos on cups, some question and answers on cups, and she also has done reviews on menstrual cups. So she is definitely the place to check out if you want to learn more about menstrual cups. So that is it from me. I hope this has helped some of you ladies out there who also have the horrendous mega flow that comes around every month and tortures you. If you have, please subscribe and give this a thumbs up, and I will speak to you all soon.